welcome to the Winners of Sheffield podcast. It's part 2 of our Steel City Derby Day. We are at Sheffield Wednesday with Jonny Gilberthorpe, who you have to tell your role, Jonny, because I've messed it up at Bramall Lane. Is it Community and Inclusion Manager? Or
no, so I'm Participation Manager.
Participation, that's what we got mixed up with at Bramall Lane. So we're here today. Thanks for having us and taking time out of your schedule to have us. What we do with every podcast, and we're here at Hillsborough 6, is just talk us about where you started and basically where you grew up in Sheffield. If you're from Sheffield, Rob from Rotherham, so we may have got that. Doesn't matter where you're from, just talk us about where you're from, how you grew up, and then we'll go from there.
So I'm originally, I was born in Chesterfield, but I've grown up in Dronfield basically.
Oh, nice.
So sort of like most my upbringing's been around there, but I went to Sheffield Hallam Uni and spent a couple of years living in Sheffield whilst I was at uni. And yeah, I have not really like fled away too much. I've had a year out in Australia doing a bit of travelling straight out of uni, and I went to work at London Olympics for a bit.
Oh, did you?
Just working basically like the Coca-Cola, like doing some bits and bobs around the Olympic stadiums, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I kind of always knew I wanted to work in sport, and I've always just been so like engaged in sport. And
is that what you did at uni?
Yeah, I did sports development degree, and yeah, I think really I just loved playing any kind of sports, team sports really, and that's kind of what ignited me and wanted to get down the coaching route and end up in community club organisations. But I basically started my working career at Qualitas, which is like a local sports school sport partnership, which it was a good part-time job alongside uni, and then it just sort of developed into full. But then I kind of got my first full proper career, I guess, at Donny College.
Right. Okay.
So I was doing a Sport England project, tackling an activity, which was a real eye-opener for me, managing a project and sort of trying to get those underrepresented groups more active. And I learned a lot really over that sort of 2-year period. And I actually I came from there to start teaching, so I did my PGCE whilst I was at Donny College part-time. So I then got a teaching job in the education department here at Wednesday, and I did a year on the education programme, and it just wasn't for me really. I just went into teaching because I got the qual rather than probably really wanting to teach that. And I think it was good for me to learn that wasn't the right place for me.
Yeah.
What age were you teaching when you?
So I was doing the further education programme, so I was doing 16 plus.
Right.
So teaching sport, BTEC. And then I went back to Qualitas full time. It was kind of like what was there at the time, and a few of my mates still worked there, so I still had contacts, and it was a good sort of step away from getting out of the teaching world and back into sort of sports development. And then from there, I got a job at Rotherham United, doing the exact same role as I'm doing now. So I've been at Rotherham United for about 3.5 years, and managed to sort of like develop their participation department to a decent standard. Had a good team around me, and obviously the job came up here. Being a Wednesday fan, I knew that I always wanted to try and come back over this way, but in the area of the organisation that I was more into, I guess, and passionate about. So I feel like I'm 6 months into the journey back here, enjoying it. Quite a lot of work to do, but some really good people, and I feel like I'm happy here. I enjoy it, and I want to turn this project into like a big part of Sheffield, and hopefully get the Sheffield Wednesday community programme sort of out there more so than it even is now, and be able to offer lots of opportunities for people in the city. I suppose that's my full journey.
That's a good journey. It's a very good journey. So when did you start with? Was Qualitas? I never understood with Qualitas. Is it like you could work at Qualitas, but you could still do other roles as well, or was it full time at Qualitas?
So initially it was just literally like it was where I first started. Like Qualitas wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
It was just the Sheffield Wednesday Development Centre on a Saturday morning in Dronfield at Gosford Fields. And I played football there. My dad also was looking after the facility there.
Okay.
So I knew I wanted to get into coaching. There was some volunteering opportunities just to coach on a Saturday morning for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
That grew pretty rapidly. I think the timing of Qualitas being developed allowed it to boom pretty quick because I don't think there was many players in that field at the time. So all of a sudden we were working in schools and I was still in uni in my third year, I think. And it was a bit like, oh, there's some more hours here, can you pick them up? So I was just sort of like balancing it around study. And it naturally became a full-time role after I'd been down to the Olympics and come back.
Yeah.
So I'd gone down there and done sort of July 2012 through till September 2012. Went on a couple of holidays, came back home and started working with them.
Yeah. I remember when I left I remember when I was at Sheffield College, my tutor always said to me, he said, you'll leave here, you'll finish or go to university, do whatever, take a year out, just go straight into work and all that. He said, I'll give you one piece of advice. He said, no matter what you want to do in your life, he said, whenever there's an Olympics, go and work, go and do some work there. He said, be it sell hot dogs, work in a merchandise stand and all that. He said, because the whole experience of it is just unreal.
It was epic.
Yeah. Did you get to see many events when you were?
Yeah, so I mean, it all came about through street games. Whilst I was at uni, I was on a placement with Rounders England, which is their national governing body. And again, my mate's mum was CEO there and like heavily involved with developing Rounders. And
I didn't know the Rounders were that big.
It's huge, and it's obviously like it's a real big participation sport for women and girls.
Okay, yeah.
So obviously that's like a big underrepresented group in physical activity, and my mate's mum Alison, who basically got me into that kind of sport development world.
Yeah.
And we were doing some project with street games, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, we're after street games worked for Coca-Cola. They were after activators to work around Olympic venues, literally filling fridges up. They just needed some young people that wanted to be involved. So I applied for it, and there was thousands that applied, and I think about 120 got jobs.
Right, okay.
So it was pretty intense recruitment process. Yeah. But I think it was thanks to the work I've done with Rounders and my experiences with them that I got through the door. And
what age were you at that point?
So that was 21. Yeah, 21. So last year you just finished uni.
Right.
And it was brilliant because
no stress at 21-year-old.
No, well that it was literally like
get on the train. In London as well.
So I was in Weymouth for 2 weeks at a sailing event. So Coca-Cola had got in touch with everyone saying, can anyone start, I think like 3 weeks early than the start date that we'd initially give you. We need some extra bodies down in Weymouth to set up all the sailing and rowing event. Sailing and windsurfing, sorry. And I was like, well, why not? I jumped on the next train kind of thing, went down there. Like, all your food and accommodation were paid for. There were
dream,
yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. And then they did like a big opening ceremony at Wembley. Had all Olympic athletes like doing gymnastics and stuff. It was mental, really. I had my 21st birthday that night, so it was pretty insane. And I was predominantly the aquatic centre. Right. Okay. So I saw a lot of like the diving and the swimming, but we'd be on random shifts, like we're doing night shifts and stuff. Yeah. And then at the end of it all, they basically like thanked all the activators and stuff, and we were all there volunteering. They're like, oh, by the way, we're going to pay you as well. So come out of it, like living in London for pretty much 3 months. Yeah. All paid for, tube card, expenses covered. We had like Nando's card, could go and get as many Nando's as we wanted and stuff. It was mad really. Happy days. Yeah.
Living absolutely. Did you meet any of the athletes and what?
Yeah, well, a couple of like stories here. People in the Olympic Village, you could go, there's like a McDonald's basically, and people, the athletes after the opening ceremony and stuff, I didn't get to go in the opening ceremony or anything like that, but there was loads of athletes just wandering around. So we bumped into Andy Murray at the time, and who else did we see?
You won gold, didn't you?
Yeah.
There's so many athletes that are in there that you're just not that aware of it. People would be like, oh, that's such and such a way.
Where was the Olympic Village in London? Where was it?
Pretty close to the main stadium.
Yeah.
Yeah, close to the main stadium. But down at like the rowing in the
Did you actually chat to Andy Murray? You don't see him across
I didn't directly, but
Okay.
some of the people I was with were chatting.
just
I'm a bit more
wondered.
reserved. I'm not that sort of like brave, I guess, when it comes to
Yeah.
that. I don't like getting in their space, I guess. And even with like the players here, when I see them walking past, I don't really like. I'm a massive Wednesday fan, and you see like Barry Bennett walking past you, and you are. It's a bit like,
Bit
what a guy.
Yeah.
I think one of the only selfies I ever took, I was absolutely hammered at. When Rotherham won the Pizza Cup a few years ago, we managed to get some tickets in the Royal Box at Wembley for it because I was working for him, and a few of us got like selected out of a hat and all that. Ended up absolutely tanked up in this Royal Box, and Paul Chuckle were in there.
Paul Chuckle, nice.
But obviously he was like a celebrity Rotherham fan. And we got in his ear a bit, but I'd only dared do it when I had a few years and stuff. I wouldn't have gone and done that.
You still got that framed up in the house then?
It's somewhere in my phone. But I think I also had a selfie with Atty Newey once, which is a bit shit. Like, I'm not ashamed of it.
Yeah. So while we're here now, we'll bring up to date. We're at Sheffield Wednesday. Talk us through. I presume it might be similar to what we just spoke about Sheffield United this morning, but just the main goals and objectives really of the Sheffield Hallam Wednesday community programme that you're in charge of. What?
Yeah. So I suppose like the community programme's massive. As a whole, I mean, my specific area of participation is all around primary education, primary schools. We've got a big project called Premier League Primary Stars, that's funded by a Premier League charitable fund, and then we do a lot of like events throughout the academic year. But then we have a football development strand where we're trying to create pathways for young people in football. It's an area that I'm doing quite a lot of work on at the moment. Like Sheffield's got their emerging talent programs and their girls ETC programs, and we haven't really got that here within our community programme, so I'm looking at trying to develop that. We've got an SEND department within the participation area that does like a short breaks programme to give parents respite. It's got a number of projects that it runs, like youth clubs, and just trying to offer something for everyone in the community. But there's other areas of the community programme with the youth and integration. There's sort of like that secondary school upwards age where they're trying to engage young people in opportunities and upskill, educate, also try and reduce violence and try and support the police and other public services to offer opportunities in the community in the evenings. And they do a lot of projects in the day, like one-to-one services to support young people that might be finding it challenging.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a health team that do all sorts of amazing work with like dementia, with weight management, just baby mum sessions. There's a department that's just education, the one I used to work in, that's post-16 further education programme that then leads into University of South Wales education degree. So there's like a full pathway really from pretty much a toddler with the baby and mum groups right through to leaving university. Which is pretty much what most community programmes and CCOs across the country offer, and it's a massive network. And like you say, I know the guys at Sheffield, and we work closely. And when I was at Rotherham, I was working closely with the guys here and with Sheffield United and Barnsley and Donny, and we've got a good little network of people that we're not competing against each other. We're all just working together with the same goals.
That's what Rob said a good few times, to be fair. Sort of saying that they don't want to sort of compete with what you're doing and actively do something.
And there's areas of the community all over the city that need them, the tackling inequalities and filling them gaps. And like North Sheffield, it's got its challenges. It's very multicultural. It's got lots of groups that need support in different ways. And likewise with other areas of Sheffield that probably are more in Sheffield United's catchment. It was different at Rotherham because it's a one-town club, so pretty much the whole area, it was just like you're looking after this whole area. And there were some areas like sort of northeast that Doncaster's such a big borough, they just couldn't reach that area easily. It was like a 40-minute drive from the stadium just to go and support communities.
One thing we talked about this morning was we're saying that if you've got, I don't know, an area in the city centre and they're all then there's a predominantly neighbourhood there that they're all Wednesday and they don't want anything to do with Sheffield United. Could Wednesday still, would you, I don't know how it works, would you still get involved with them? Sheffield United said, look, we want it, they're in our catchment area, we're working on this project within this area, but they want nothing to do with this because we're red and white. So how would you work with that?
You definitely just have conversation. We have conversations between one another, and if that's the situation, ultimately we all want to try and engage the community and try and improve, health, well-being, everything that social values that come along with what a community programme is, and make Sheffield better. Support people that need that support, and if there's a group that are Wednesday fans that live in that area and our badge can give them that sort of drive and motivation to be involved in it, then absolutely, like, we go and work with those people. And likewise, if there's a group here, you'd be amazed how many kids come to our camps with Sheffield United shirts on. It's mad, like, and I'm presuming that Sheffield you have, lads coming, girls coming down.
They basically made out that they get a lot of Man City players. I mean, we were in Bramwell. I was walking down the corridors at Bramwell Lane today, and the two lads from one of their classes walking out with PSG shirts on. Obviously, last night I'm thinking, I said my main aim was like, how do you engage? Because we were talking about the power of social media and it's the in thing to do to support one of them teams now, but how do community programmes like yourself get the local kids to stick with their local teams, really? I mean, it's a big challenge in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a challenge. I wouldn't say we do anything specific. We haven't got projects specifically around that, but I think there is subconsciously in your mind, you want to create the next generation of Wednesday fans coming through, because ultimately that's going to keep the club going for a longer legacy, isn't it? And I think we're lucky at Wednesday that I know we always say like massive club, but genuinely it's like they've got a cult following, haven't they? A lot of clubs have that, but I feel like it is, in this area of the city, the majority of kids when you go in the schools that are local within sort of a 3 mile radius of here, the majority are Wednesday fans, and I think there is still that pride and element of we are from this side of the city and this is super sport. Like, I remember growing up, it never even crossed my mind to support anyone else, because your dad is instilling into you that that's your club and that's your team and that's who you support.
That's who it was with me. My dad said straight away, you support Everton, that you've got no choice. And then going to school in Sheffield, there weren't many Evertonians around, so that was always tricky, but exactly the same as Chad. My brother obviously was born 5 years later. He went to Sheffield schools and all his mates supported Wednesday, and obviously he's a Wednesday season ticket holder, so it's a tough area. So, and that's what I mean, because the size of Wednesday, compared to Sheffield United, they reach out to districts like Barnsley and Rotherham and Doncaster as well. So, how do they engage with that area? Do they? Is it just Sheffield predominantly, or?
Yeah, I suppose there's like unwritten rules in a way where if there's projects in certain areas, like we have some schools sort of Aston area, and we have some work, like some contact from Todic area. And really that's like a different catchment to us, so it's kind of, saying, well, really they should be approaching the club that serves that area, I guess. But those sort of lines aren't strict, I guess. You just have that conversation with the club and say, well, I just drop Rotherham a line and say, there's a school here wanting support with stuff. Have you got the services to be able to offer that support? If not, we'll see what we can do. But in terms of like trying to get them Wednesday fans, like I feel like that is the difference with Wednesday. It is like an international club in a way. There's fans all over the world, isn't there? And I know how sort of obvious that is sometimes when you go on holiday and you'll see Wednesday shirts about all the time, and I know you'll still see like your Liverpool and your Man U shirts and whatever. But,
and Everton shirt.
Everton shirt every now and then. But it is a club that's been away from the main stage for quite a while, but you still get them shirts popping up when you're away.
How do like kids get started from scratch? So like say for instance a kid who's got, I don't know, antisocial issues or anti-behaviour issues, not like at school. How does he get involved in these programmes? How would he start off getting
so local authority have some referral programmes and schemes where they'll be aware of a young person or a child or a person that needs additional support and knows. Obviously through like a lot of the networks that we have, like there's the Move More network where we do discuss and local authority be a part of that and understand what services ourselves and other providers can offer. So they might go, that's a perfect fit. So we might have like, for example, a befriending service, a lad refer to us who's a Wednesday fan, struggling to go to college, struggling to engage in just day-to-day life. So they'll go, well, perfect fit, let's get them involved with the Wednesday Community Programme. People can just reach out, I guess, but that might be a challenge to them. But there's all sorts of different ways in which people are referred to us, but I wouldn't say there's a right way, if that makes sense. Where like you have to go through this process, like a doctor's surgery, I guess, where you have to focus.
That's what I was thinking. Is it like, do they get a list and then you say, right, we'll take this on, or you can go here? And
is there ever more capacity than you can handle?
I would say that every CCO really has more capacity than they can handle in a lot of ways. I would say that like
no matter how much you do, there's always people.
I think that's what I'm trying to get at. I guess there's always new challenges and everything's developing and changing all the time. So the stuff we might be trying to support the national government to overcome the challenge, there might be something locally that emerges that actually we need to work on that in this North East Sheffield area.
You know, the uptake of youngsters in supporting, and I know this is not your area, but like I was thinking about it following the interview with Rob earlier, in the sense that, you know, kids are just on the mobile phones, you know, is football, are you seeing that football is declining, and, you know, young kids' interest in football declining, and like you say, getting sucked, or like we touched on, getting sucked into, they're only interested in top league, Premier League or Champions League football, or are you not seeing that?
No, I think when, particularly, I know I do a lot of work with the sort of primary school age groups, so like you're talking key stage 1 and key stage 2 kids, and they all love football, like they genuinely do. If anything, I think the schools hate it, and because it brings out sometimes the most passion, all the passion from the young kids, and they start falling out, and then it sort of exposes their social and emotional needs more than other sports or other activities might do. But there's still that massive demand when we're out and about for football. I think maybe later in life, when they get to that secondary school age group, that's where your drop off starts to appear a little bit more. But yeah, I don't, whenever we do consultation with young people, because we have to obviously get pupil voice for a lot of the activities that we're planning, so it's catering to the customer really.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at some this morning because we're doing a bid for our next Premier League Primary Stars round, and a lot of the consultation from the young people that we've spoken to is like they love playing football, they want to do more football, they love the opportunity to play football every day, and we often ask them like, what do you find boring at school and stuff, and
my list would be that long.
Well, and I think this is it, like they can answer that question so easily. And it just it poses the question to me, like, is it the whole system that needs, you know, changing in some way? Like, if kids are finding that boring, and they're not going to get much out of it. Whereas, you know, I know football and sport and physical activity is not for everyone, but we know it's important for their health and for their well-being. And we're finding that, you know, physical activity levels aren't increasing no matter how much we're pumping into it at the moment. With all the Active Life survey reports, there's been some great stories and wins, but we're still at the same percentage levels of physical activity, and we're still experiencing the same problems. So I find with myself, when I'm not active enough, I can feel like my mood's dipping, and I feel a little bit less, you know, like positive and optimistic, whereas when I'm more active, I definitely feel more confident in myself, and, you know, I'm at that age now where I'm struggling to play football as much as I did, and that was like my main driver for keeping active. So now I'm finding different ways to keep active and get that exercise in, and recognising more how much it is good for your mental health. And the kids, the young people, are the number of children that are being diagnosed with autism and ADHD, etc., it's on the increase. I don't know, is it all linked? Is it down to the technology and the phones?
Do Sheffield Wednesday, I mean, what I found from Sheffield United was they say they're happy to promote the football, they can do all that, but they steer it away from the football, because they don't want it all to be just, you're working, you're doing these courses because you might play football, you might do that. Do you try, is it the same at Wednesday where they just try and steer it away, say, football's there, but also you need to do this as well?
I think like a lot of the intervention work that we do isn't even involving football. Like we're doing a lot of PSHE, maths, English intervention work, but there's elements that are linked to football. So we might do some maths activities that have got England football players or Premier League players.
PSR.
And we're basically like utilising the power of football in different ways. to speak to those young people that are probably disengaged. But then, like I say, there's a lot of projects that don't even have football involved in it whatsoever, but we're there with a Wednesday badge on delivering it.
Yeah. It's what I sometimes
Yeah.
fathom to think, because I think some kids might think, oh yeah, we're involved Wednesday night, it's all to do with football, but it's not, is it? It's
No.
completely different.
And we'll sometimes go in and deliver stuff, and they want to play football with us, they
Yeah,
want to do
that's what I
football,
mean, yeah.
and we're like, no, we've got to do these other things that are part of our performance
Yeah.
indicators to get our funding in, and try and support, where there's where children are falling behind in maths and English.
It's funny you mentioned about you did the teaching and found that it wasn't something that you wanted to do. I did my coaching badges, and I was an assistant manager at a football club, under 12s I think it was, or under 13s, and I quickly just thought, I don't want to be coached. I just want to kick around, I just want to kick a football around, and rightly or wrongly I walked away from it and I haven't gone back. I sort of thought wrongly when I had my team of boys, team of sons, I went back to it, and neither of my daughters are interested in football.
How many people work with you now then, Johnny? How many people?
In my core team, contracted staff, I've got 9.
9.
But we have a large casual workforce as well.
Is that voluntary then?
No, so the casuals all just get paid by the hour, so they'll alongside education, alongside other roles, other jobs, they'll come and do bits and bobs.
So they might just commit 5 hours a week?
Yeah, we've got some casuals that do like 25 hours a week at the moment, but then we've got quite a lot that do like 3 or 4, work on a Saturday morning, soccer sessions. Some are like teachers that work in SEN schools that come and work on our short grades programme at the weekend and just do like 5 hours a week for us. We're in that sort of era now where I think a lot of people are wanting a second income.
Yeah.
So like our weekend and evening work could become quite attractive for people to want to top up their purse every month. So then they've got a bit of spending money rather than all of it being spent on their, the living costs.
The 9 that you've got employed, what backgrounds are they from? Because I was saying it this morning that there's some, say for example, 44 now, is the people my age who've gone, I've done this all my life, I fancy a change and I want to change something different, or is the people who've left uni and gone, this is the route I want to go?
My team are quite young, so I suppose like Will literally started today, like we just met.
How old is it?
Do you know what, I don't know, because when you recruit, you don't know their age, it's like confidential information. It's discriminating.
We'll say early 20s.
But he's young, he's early 20s, I'd say. But, as part of the interview process with him, you can tell straight away that he's got lived experience. I'm sure he doesn't mind me sort of saying, but he plays in the deaf team and struggles with his hearing. Yeah. But having that lived experience is crucial for him to be able to then engage with young people that might be struggling with a disability. Yeah. To be able to get them to have that confidence and access the provision and support that we can offer or other organisations can offer.
Are all your staff dealt with previous antisocial behaviour, that behavioural stuff before, or is it they just start coming in from scratch?
Some have just come through our education programme, so they've come through the BTEC and then into the degree. Some have come from different backgrounds like teaching. Some are just football coaches really that have ended up going, well, I like football coaching, I want to work for a club, and then they found themselves on this journey where they are going more into their education or SEN and working with different groups. So a lot of staff as well sometimes move into different departments and things.
Right.
And I suppose at what stage of their life they're at as well. Yeah, sometimes, you can, like the health team work with a lot of older people and adults. So sometimes you need someone that's going to be a little bit more, like a different style than one of the young coaches that might have a style that really would speak to the younger people.
And if anyone's watching and they wanted to get involved, say on a part-time basis, how would they get involved?
Yeah, so we've got, we basically have a application form that's just a standard application form for anyone wanting to come and get involved. We've got a website, spfccp.co.uk, and that has links about jobs at the bottom. So we're sort of, all CCOs are they all tend to have a little bit of staff turnover. I think it's just the nature of it's kind of an entry level for a lot of coaches, and then there's a bit of a ceiling where there's only so many jobs at the coordinator level and the management level. Yeah. So to get to that next step, you sometimes have to jump to a different club, or you have to go into, you know, the partnership groups that we already work with.
I suppose some grads just want that initial experience as well, don't they, before?
I take it every member staff that starts has got to have some kind of educational qualification.
Yeah, so we sort of have a minimum operating requirements, and we have a level 1 coaching badge for a support coach, basically, a support member of staff, and they all have to have their first aid and safeguarding through the FA.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And then if you're a lead coach, you have to be level 2 or UEFA C qualified coach.
Is that standard now, is it?
Yeah, most organisations are operating on that, and then really like the staff delivering on the Premier League Primary Stars programme needs to be working towards the HLTA level 4 football development programme, you know, UEFA B licence for a league on that is something that we're working towards. I mean, I still coach football as well, so I've still kind of got a second job alongside this.
Do you coach here?
No, so I'm coaching at Rotherham,
Okay.
so I've not really like touched upon that, but I've been coaching football like throughout the whole time I've been working, really. But probably about 3-4 years ago I started academy coaching whilst I was at Rotherham.
For Rotherham United?
Yeah, so just do their under 11 squad at the moment,
nice.
and I've been working with their under, like you have a different cohort each year, but I've been working with their under 11s, and I've got my last session tonight for this season actually.
Okay.
But it's really like
which do you prefer? You don't have to have that.
what in terms of the job?
Yeah, in terms of the job, yeah.
Do you know what I do love the football coaching. Like it's more a hobby as opposed to like, you know, the money that comes in from it is amazing. It adds to, like I say, a little bit of extra spending money. But some of my mates, when I'm getting up on a Sunday morning and driving over to Wigan to play Wigan's under 11s and getting smashed 10-0, they're a bit like, why are you doing that? But I think when you've gone through this whole journey and gone through all the coaching badges and done all the CPD and worked towards it, it's a bit of a weird industry. It's really unforgiving. You see loads of stuff on LinkedIn nowadays where people slate like the coaching world because you dedicate so much of your life to it, and the return in terms of financial return isn't great. But actually I've developed so much as a coach and educator, and that's probably thanks to the coaching world, because it's a world that critiques you all the time. Like you're constantly being observed by others, and people are sort of challenging you on your practice.
Everyone's an armchair fan as well.
Exactly.
I mean, I saw something, and I think it was on LinkedIn actually, in particular at the age group that you're coaching. And again, as a participation manager, you know, I guess it's even, I saw this guy who was basically saying that you shouldn't just play your best players, you know, you've got to play everybody and sort of like include everybody, you know, and as much as that upsets a lot of the, you know, if you're lads the star player and you just want him to play every, but I guess you must experience that yourself.
Grassroots is really challenging. I don't think people realise how challenging grassroots is. For me in academy football, it's so much easier in many respects because we're coaching the kids to be individuals really, because they're all on their own pathway. The results as a team does not matter whatsoever. We just look at fixtures as like red, amber, green. So we look at a fixture like Wigan away, who's a better category academy, or when we play Leeds or Sheffield United's academy, when we're playing Cat 1 academies, we don't expect to get results, but we're looking at individuals and how they're performing on that pitch at that time, and how are they coping against those challenges. And that's when you start to see your best players coming through, that you're thinking actually they've got, you know, a chance with this, because it's such a slim chance to make it, as everyone knows. But
I suppose when you're going away and they're losing 10-0,
your
job's to look after them mentally and sort of protect them from letting that.
It's flipping that narrative, because they, you know, like I said, we come back from playing Wigan, who were a really good outfit, absolutely tanked us, and you've got kids with their heads down, but you've got to look at it as a positive that they've had a good challenge, and that like if they go and win every game 10-0 every week, what's the point? They're not gonna learn. You learn from your failures, don't you? You know, when your back's against the wall, or you know, when you're sort of like down to your last penny in your bank, that's when you suddenly like become you've
resilience.
Yeah. So I guess that's like the lessons that we're trying to teach the kids, and kids get released, but they have a good sort of 2 or 3 year period with the coaches to develop them and give them
Mhm.
opportunity to prove themselves as an individual, and they have their own independent learning plans. So there's a lot behind the scenes that people don't see, but the parents still come and watch the game and go like, oh, they start looking at other players, why is such and such playing across with the older kids or whatever. And I get that, it's hard because you're biased, aren't you, as a parent, but grassroots, it's brutal really, because they're playing to win a lot of the clubs. Some clubs have got the right sort of philosophy where they're there to help kids grow and develop as humans as well as footballers, but if you start losing a lot of games, they start treating it like first team football. Which is mad really, isn't it? That I had a conversation actually, this is totally, it's on topic but totally different. A family, one of my missus's family friends have got a kid who, they live in Leicester. They basically went down just for a family party, and the parent started chatting to me basically saying like, our child's been sidelined from their grassroots club, and he's like 12-year-old. He was really down about it. They were like, can you have a chat with him? And kind of like had a chat with him and the family, and you could see how much that was impacting his life and the family's life, that the lad wasn't getting in that grassroots team, and he felt that was the be all and end all to be in that squad because that's where all his mates were and stuff. And it's down to like the people running it, that they're focusing so much on results rather than seeing the bigger picture of how are these young people developing. And I know like the equal game time thing, we always make sure that a player plays 50% of every match at academy level. So bear in mind I'm a foundation phase. I can't speak for the youth phase level, because once they get into that youth phase, you're looking at contracts and who's going to be your next £10 million player and finances, whereas my job really is just to keep guiding them, keep adding skills to them, keep adding sort of all that four corner model into their like game and psychology, and pass them on hopefully better than when they came to me. And those that don't sort of show improvement across that period, we start putting them onto the red list and start to encourage them to look at grassroots.
On a personal level for yourself, if you're doing the coaching, you're doing this role as well, we touched upon it on a few other podcasts. What's your coping mechanisms for your own dealing with your home life, this life, coaching life? How do you handle it all?
It's like we were talking earlier, weren't we? I'm having my first child in September, and I've already spoke to the guy at the academy there and said, look, I'm probably going to have to take a bit of a back seat just for at least a few months, just because I want to be there. I don't want to be constantly out the house, because I do feel like I'm out the house a lot. But I think it's because you love it. So when you say about coping and stuff, it is a hobby in many ways. So then you're in that environment and you go there, you enjoy. Sometimes on the drive there I'd be like, I've just not got the energy tonight. But you get there and you come out and I feel like a buzz.
Yeah, get that.
Yeah, so I suppose that's it. And then got a dog, so I take my dog a walk. Go out on my bike. So you've got a couple of bikes, and I've started cycling to work a bit again when the summer hits. That really helps clear that space.
Where are you cycling from?
So I'm in Qualitas in Dronfield area now.
No, it's still a fair old right.
It's about 35 minutes it takes me to get. It's all downhill coming in, and then it's all uphill going back. So we can race down, but going back I can take my time a bit.
How many wards do you look after? I mean, we spoke to Rob and he said Sheffield United look after like 13 wards in Sheffield. How many Wednesday got?
Honestly, I don't know the answer to that. Because I've been here 6 months, I'm still developing my understanding of all the wards and what we sort of deliver on. But the sort of North East Sheffield area is a real target area for tackling inequalities. And I don't know how many wards are within that, but I was at that Move More meeting the other week, and they were talking about all the wards and how every ward is very different. And
that's what he was saying to us. He said each ward has got its own different challenges and different backgrounds, and there's clashes. One of the things we talked about, and it's unfortunately rising amongst young people now, is obviously knife crime. They've obviously had one of their own participants, Harvey Wildgoose, sadly passed away as a result of it recently, and he talked about the working with South Yorkshire Police on a crime initiative regarding that. Are Wednesday doing the same thing?
Yeah, we do a lot of work around that. So Paul Hebner, our Youth and Integration Manager, he's got a team that are all working on knife crime initiatives. Sadly, it's something that is starting to be mentioned by teachers in primary education as well, where they're sort of mentioning that, because I go on to speak to the senior leaders and sort of say, what are the challenges you're facing? And it might be like social media issues, but then there's some schools that are talking about domestic abuse issues and kids seeing domestic violence at home, and that's having an impact on their school life. We're doing some projects where parents are in prison and things like that. So knife crime is sort of one of those things that's starting to drip in where kids are seeing it, in like the Harvey situation.
Yeah.
Kids hear and see the news. I don't think parents always protect young people from the news as much as they probably could. I don't know, is it good to be aware of what's going on in the world, but also how far do we go to protect young people from seeing or understanding that that's happening on their doorstep? I sometimes think like, I remember when I was at Donny College doing that, tackling activity role, there was a huge boom at that time of mental health challenges. And I think like the more awareness was raised of it, the more people were sort of going, oh, hang on, that makes sense to me now. So it was almost like a bit of a learning journey for a lot of people to go, oh, I just thought that was me, rather than diagnosing it as something. And I don't know, like, so I sometimes think the more you expose, the more it can open up challenges that might not present themselves.
You
as
said
harshly.
actually about like domestic abuse and knife crime and like that. So if young people come to, I don't know, not yourself, but like one of your trainers or something, and said, I'm witnessing this and all that, are they trained to deal with that, or do they pass them on to the department?
It's interesting because there has been a couple of incidents with knife crime at sessions, particularly like the youth integration sessions where they're in evenings, and we also had an incident recently at one of my participation sessions where there was no knives or anything there, but children sort of seeing these things and then making those threats that they have something in their possession,
right,
as a bit of a threat to someone else. That, so we're learning every single day, really. Some staff are much more equipped to deal with that, but I wouldn't say we're specifically trained to then be able to manage that situation. But we have had lengthy discussions in like senior management meetings about how do we like do this, especially after the Harvey Wagner's incident. And like the Southport incident and all these things, like it triggers you then to react, doesn't it? And look at what are we doing and how are we planning to cope if anything was to arise. And like facilities now, like our own facility at round the corner, is pretty much on lockdown, unless if it's the times where people are coming in and out for a session. Purely after like all the Southport, it's learning from the fact that if people can access it, you don't know who's out there that could pose a risk. But
definitely.
With like the knife crime, it's a couple of incidents that have happened where they've had to call police, but fortunately it's never escalated to that level.
Right.
And we're sort of looking at how do we safeguard our team, how do we safeguard the children, young people that come into sessions. It's an impossible challenge.
Yeah, definitely.
In many ways, like there's only so much we can actually do before it's then something that
Beyond your control.
beyond our capability.
Well, granted you've only been in this role a short time, but what would you say for the department as a whole and yourself, are the biggest challenges you face so far in this?
I think I'm trying to think of what has been the biggest challenge. I think for me, just in my own role currently, is just making sure that I've got the right sort of people in the right places and having a core team where they are constantly being developed and upskilled to deal with these things that we're talking about. I think to work in education now, to work in a primary school, you're not just a teacher really anymore, and I think it's been like that for a while really, but budgets are constantly being sacked, aren't they? So I think it's trying to get people trained to be able to cope with all those different challenges, and I see it with my team, like they're facing their own challenges, so then I'm finding ways to support and mentor and be sometimes, you know, I feel like I'm not really a manager of people. I'm more like a, you know, counsellor, because everyone's got their own journey, and we're a community programme that wants to offer opportunities as well. So we've got a lot of staff coming through the system who have got learning difficulties, disabilities that we want to support, because, you know, if we can't help people get into employment, that's part of our remit really, to offer that platform. And I've got quite a few staff members that have got disabilities or learning difficulties that, you know, I wish I had more time every week to be able to spend that time with them and support and mentor and make sure that they have got the perfect platform to flourish and be able to get the best out of themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big challenge for me. I think as the whole organisation, we've got a new facility opening. I think facilities is a big challenge.
Where's that opening now?
So that's our facility around the corner, so it's the old Jubilee site. So, we've got a 11-side AstroTurf, a gym, a couple of classroom sort of office container spaces, but we've got a new development that's just had planning permission approved. That's going to be really good for our community, and it was all built through consultation really. And we've got open spaces there for indoor, like dance, gym, open sessions. Then also they can be turned into like classroom spaces. There's going to be a cafe down there, some changing rooms. So I think a big challenge for the whole organisation is facilities and also meeting the demand. When you said about, do you feel like we're over capacity, the demand's always greater than the capacity that we have.
I was going to say, when you were chatting just then, cost of living going up will obviously, no matter how much work you're doing, it's just going to bring more and more people into the bracket that need your support, isn't it? So
I think that's it. You open a door of support, and then the funding for that support is normally got a sell by date, use by date sort of thing, and you never know, you know, where that funding's going to be next, what government's going to be in. There's lots of moving parts, isn't there, that determines what we can and can't do, and you don't want to let the community down basically, and you feel terrible when when funding does potentially come to a close for some areas, but we always find a way, and I think that's what community club organisations and Sheffield Wednesday community programmes are amazing at. Like we always find a way, do you know what I mean? We always make sure we can do what we can do.
Well, we always turn a negative into a positive. So what success stories this project had under you since you've been here?
God, I've only been here 6 months. I feel like I'm taking other people's thunder really, but
take it.
I don't know. We've been running loads of events. Like I love running events. And I feel like being a Wednesday fan and like my experiences growing up, the things I remember from education were more like trips and extended visits, days out. Don't really remember the nitty gritty. You remember the odd little thing. But I love being able to get school groups down here and saying, like we did play on the pitch the other week. We did a big Maths and English day in the stadium. So I'm planning on more of that next year. But being able to bring loads of groups down here, I think that's a big success where you can see the impact it's having like firsthand, and that it sort of, we rely on the schools to bring the right children to engage in them projects. So like the Maths and English day, we had workshops in the press room, in the changing room, so we're doing like Managerial maths, and you can see like the kids that the schools brought with them are the kids that would be engaged by football or are falling behind a little bit in their academic studies. So you can see it, and you can see that that's having that positive impact. There's also been some excellent case studies where there's been underrepresented groups. So we've got some really good case studies where the girls at one of the schools we work really closely with at Deep Car they've got to like a schools finals this year. A lot of the girls start playing football with Emily, our PLPS lead.
Right.
And we've been working with that school closely for a while, so it's been a long build up, and now a lot of them girls are playing grassroots and also coming to our Wildcat sessions. So you can see that there is like that initial interaction that's now developed to something where they've got a real hobby that they're probably going to be taking part in for a long period of their life. As everyone knows, everything that comes with playing with a team, like all my mates now really pretty much lads I grew up playing football with,
Yeah.
or people that I've done some sort of sporting activities with. So you kind of grow that bond, don't you? So hopefully those girls will have those friendships and bonds that they have through sport, and it gives them a community. Like we were talking about the fans earlier, and like how you see your brother that's Wednesday fan. He's got his mates that he grew up with that are all Wednesday fans, and now they're just sort of like a group of mates that go through. And I'm jealous sometimes where there's like a group of mates that are all. Do you like when England play? You can all be together and support the same.
Yeah.
But like you see some groups of mates that are all big fans of one club and they all travel together. And I've got like a group of about 4 mates, 5 mates.
Well, my mates like Wednesday fans. I'm in a group chat and they put, "Oh, we're going to like I don't know Stoke like Good Friday." Everyone go up Stoke away and I'm like. Yeah, I wouldn't get. They go like, "Come on, Rob, you'll enjoy it." And I'm like,
"No,
I can't.
You can't
Get into it. Or he's just wasting it. If I turned around to Kay and said, "I'm having a day on the ale and away to Stoke," and she'd be like, "Hit the roof."
Yeah.
Have you got any projects, events coming up that people should be aware of? That A, they can get involved, or B, what's coming up?
I've like remodelled all our primary school delivery offer, which I've been sharing on our website and through like direct emails to schools and things, but also from August we're basically like relaunching our football development programme. So we're looking at building some like breakout squads and having a bit of a stronger pathway at this side of the city, so we can hopefully get young aspiring footballers in with us earlier, because unfortunately the best players move over to the other side of the city at the moment, or they generally go over to City or something like that. So really want to try and develop that over the next 3 years.
Tough.
Yeah,
That's tough.
tough kid. But like I say, because the coaching side of it's pretty much a bit of a hobby of mine. I really want to build something here, being a fan of the club, and hopefully have a bit of a legacy. I'd love to have a kid come to our programme and they turn out to be the next sort of Liam Palmer or something in the future. That'd be amazing.
Great.
That's sort of what drives me, I guess.
For all the local clubs as well, it needs to start happening more.
I asked the question over at United, and I'm assuming Liam Palmer's name's in there, but are there any players that particularly get involved and help you sort of with what you do?
Yeah, we have player visits. I mean, we had Deshaun Bernard at a session at a school not too long ago, and he's like such a nice bloke, like young lad, playing for Jamaica as well, like centre half. I used to play centre half as well. I'm like looking at him thinking like what a guy he is, and he's sort of like name dropping some Forest players that he's mates with and Hudson Odoi and all this, and you're thinking wow, But he came along and really got stuck in at a school session. I had Bannon and Valerie do like a World Book Day project with me.
I think I saw it on the website. Yeah.
And they got involved in that and they loved it, and I'm hoping we can do more of it, things like that moving forwards.
Are they restricted here getting involved with them projects?
Well, PFA put in rules where players do have to come and have community engagement, so there is remits for them to have to do it. Obviously, the EFL awards celebrate the players that engage in the community a lot, and we do have some players that are more motivated and passionate to go and help. I know
that's
Will
what
Volz
was
here
United,
and stuff.
saying that Sheffield United. Will Volz was the main one, wasn't he? He got a community awards all over the shop, didn't he?
Yeah. And I think that's it. We do a bit of a questionnaire at the start of the season with players and try and understand what their passions are, because really we want the right players representing that. So when I do like an Apollo Diversity and Inclusion Day, I generally do that in October time every year. I kind of want players to come down to that have quite a diverse background, upbringing, or have experienced discrimination challenges, so they can actually speak about them lived experiences to young people to understand
They've walked that life themselves.
Yeah.
But one question from me, since I'm here, is now you know about the podcast, what we do. Who do you think we should? It doesn't necessarily have to be somebody with within the club, but who else do you think we should be getting in front of?
Gosh, I don't know. I've not thought about that.
Should have asked you before.
We were chatting before, weren't we? About we've got loads of community partners who were they all in their own right do excellent work, and there's so many of them. I think the problem is so many fall under the radar. People aren't aware of them.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah.
So
And that's part of the thought behind the podcast.
Yeah.
Is certainly within the city. I mean, again, with all due respect, a lot of people won't know about you and what you do, and hopefully this sort of connects the dots for some people, and hopefully gets you in front of some other people that you can partner together with. So.
Yeah. I mean, some of the names you were dropping earlier that you're talking about, like you start thinking, like when you mention a few, it's like, wow, yeah, those people need to be celebrated. And I can't think of anyone right now, but if I do think
I'll put it this way, Rob said you. that was his way out, yeah.
Sorry, Rob, I didn't say you.
But I ended the last one, 3 questions, quick 5 questions to Rob. Well, I didn't obviously ask him Wednesday ones, but I'll ask you Wednesday ones. Favourite Wednesday all-time player?
So mine for me is Lee Bullen.
Oof.
I know, an interesting one, but it was that era when I was growing up, and I just remember he proper defender, and I was a good defender growing up. A close one was Richard Wood as well for me.
Yeah, he's
Because
just retired like this week, yeah.
But like Bullen as well, I think he was just so versatile. Like those games where he was putting the gloves on and all sorts, and you could tell he was just a proper footballer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He'd go and get
There's
stuck
that
in.
famous picture of him, isn't there?
There was no
Up
ego.
against the wall after the playoff
Yeah.
with the cans.
Yeah, and that day down at Millennium Stadium, unbelievable. I was only young then, but I remember it really well.
Yeah.
And I just felt like growing up, he was just a guy that, and he's still involved now with loads of things, and he's gone and tried.
Is he still involved with
management.
Wednesday?
He comes and does a few bits and bobs, like he comes and does some commentary and punditry every now and then with Radio Sheffield. But yeah, great.
Leave one for that. Favourite ever Wednesday goal?
It's probably got to be one in the playoffs. I mean, any of them
Liam
5 goals that night,
yeah.
And I think it was more just the event as opposed to the quality of some of the goals.
I lived at
Reece James with his toe poke.
I lived at Walkley Bank Road, just at the top of the Hillsborough hill up there, and when the Palmer scored that goal, I said to Kay, open the back door, and then the noise coming across the valley was unreal. I mean, I'll give it credit. Credit where it's due. It was like tribal. It was like unreal.
And I don't think I slept a wink like that. Just the adrenaline after I've never felt anything like that.
There's a guy who went on TikTok who they lost the first leg 4-0, didn't they?
Yeah.
And he went on TikTok. He lives 2 doors down from me. He went on TikTok and he had a ticket for this home leg, and he ripped it up. I don't remember it. He ripped it up on TikTok.
I didn't see that.
And he chucked it away and he went, obviously, effing. And then how he was made to it.
I heard a lot of them conversations before that fixture going like, "Oh, you bothering going? Are you bothering going?" Stuff. I'm like, "Well, yeah, you got to, haven't you?" That's
because Wednesday were 4-0 and then Peterborough scored, didn't they?
So we were basically we got a penalty early on, didn't we?
Was it Patterson who got the last one?
Palmer got the 5th, but I think Patterson did score.
That was an extra time.
Yeah.
So we basically got back to 4-4 and conceded an extra time, so 5-4 down.
I remember when Peterborough scored, I thought, I think that's it. I think that is it. But yeah, and then last one, we may have just answered it. Favourite ever Wednesday match?
Yeah, it's hard to compete with that. I mean, the playoff finals that we spoke about at Millennium Stadium, that was a good one as well.
That was against Hartlepool.
Hartlepool. It's just it didn't have the same sort of significance of coming back from falling down. That's the problem. But yeah, I think the playoff final at Wembley recently was a terrible match. So I don't think I'd ever get anywhere near it.
Yeah, it was a shock, wasn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, that semi-final, ridiculous. I don't think anything could compete with that in the time I've been watching Wednesday. I mean, I was born in 91, so I pretty much missed all the glory years.
Yeah. I was going to say when we come up, that's the Wednesday.
That's when they won it in 91 as well, wasn't it? That trophy there. Yeah, class one. Well, Jonny, an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, thanks very much. Take care. We'll see you soon.
Cheers, Jonny.